Imagine this. The lights flicker once, twice, and then darkness swallows your home. The hum of your refrigerator dies. Your phone stops charging, and the once convenient glow of modern technology is rendered useless. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a wake-up call. Without electricity, our world as we know it grinds to a halt. The safety net we've built around us, food in the fridge, clean water from the tap, warmth from our heating systems, disappears in an instant, exposing just how fragile our daily routines are. Blackouts don't send warnings. They creep in unexpectedly, triggered by storms, grid failures, or other disasters, and can stretch from hours into suffocating endless weeks. When the power cuts, chaos can quickly follow, leaving you scrambling while food spoils, communication halts, and the world outside plunges into silence. I've been there, staring at the oppressive blackness, realizing how unprepared I truly was. It's terrifying, and the stakes are too high to ignore. That's why preparing for a blackout isn't just smart, it's survival. With the right strategies, we can avoid being trapped and vulnerable in the dark, and instead take control to endure the worst. On why blackouts are a concern. When I think about blackouts, a chill runs down my spine. The reality of losing power isn't just an inconvenience, it's a potential catastrophe. Imagine this. Darkness envelops your home, food in your refrigerator begins to spoil within hours, and your heating or cooling system cease to function, leaving you vulnerable to the extremes of weather. Blackouts have the terrifying ability to dismantle the very fabric of modern life in an instant. Communication, the lifeline to the outside world, collapses when mobile networks fail and the internet goes dark. Without power, transportation grinds to a halt, traffic lights become hazards, and electric vehicles remain immobile. Stores shut their doors, ATMs become useless relics, and emergency services already stretched thin struggle to maintain order. This cascading failure can devolve into chaos if prolonged, threatening social order and safety. The most harrowing thought? We never know when a blackout might strike. It could be during a raging storm, a cyber attack, or an overwhelming surge in demand. Whatever the cause, the consequences are dire, and it's up to us to face the terrifying truth. To endure and protect those we love, we must prepare now, because when the lights go out, it's too late to act. 2. Preparation as the key to survival. I cannot stress this enough. Preparation is not optional if you want to make it through a blackout alive. When the lights go out and the world is swallowed in darkness, those who haven't planned ahead will be left helpless, scavenging for scraps. The chaos will come swiftly. Stores will be stripped bare, communication lines will fail, and the unprepared will beg for answers that won't come. Are you ready to face that reality? Planning is your first line of defense. Stock your home with food that won't spoil and water to last for weeks, maybe longer. Batteries, flashlights, and portable power sources will be your lifeline in the crushing void of night. Forget about haste. Frantic, last-minute decisions will be your downfall. And this isn't just advice for hardcore survivalists or preppers. Blackouts can happen to anyone, anywhere, triggered by blinding storms, malicious cyber attacks, or crumbling infrastructure. You must recognize the dangers before they're pounding on your door. Sit down now, right now, and plot your course. How will you keep your family safe? What will you do when the world grows cold and unforgiving? When the lights fail, the future belongs only to the prepared. 3. Securing water and food. When the lights flicker out and the world plunges into darkness, survival hinges on one crucial truth. Without water and food, we perish. The harsh reality of every blackout is the stark fight to sustain the most basic human needs, while the world as we know it collapses into chaos. I've seen what happens when unprepared souls scramble to find something as simple as a drink of water. You don't want to be them, trust me. Water is life, but in a blackout, it's the first to disappear. Pipes go dry, shops get raided, and desperation takes over. I make sure I have a system in place to secure clean water long before the panic sets in. Boiling is reliable if you have the resources, a roaring flame and heat. But what if your gas runs out? What if your campfire is merely a faint hope in a windstorm? That's why I keep purification tablets close. These tiny miracles turn filth into something drinkable in mere minutes. And for when the world seems too cruel, I depend on a portable water filter, the kind that fits in my survival pack and gives me control over every drop. I can draw life from a murky pond if it comes to that. Every source is precious, each sip a victory over the desperation clawing at the edges of survival. Food is the next frontier in this nightmare scenario, and the rules are simple. Stockpile wisely or starve. By the time the canned goods aisle is an empty wasteland of bent, forgotten cans, it'll be too late. That's why I focus on non-perishable, nutrient-dense staples that can keep me going longer than hope can. Canned goods are my frontline defense. Vegetables, beans, fruit, proteins, everything sealed in those metal lifesavers. They sit in the shadows of my pantry, waiting for the worst. Then, there's the dry goods. Rice, pasta, oats. These silent heroes can stretch and fill, made pliable with water when there's no luxury of choice. And for the worst nights, when scarcity gnaws at my stomach and the darkness feels unbearable, I've something ready. Granola bars, freeze-dried meals, anything that requires little more than a flicker of hunger to consume. Cooking, however, becomes a sinister puzzle. Open flames in the dark attract attention, and sometimes hunger is shared among friends and foes alike. But desperation doesn't play fairly. That's why I rely on camping stoves and grills, fueled and ready. I stockpile fuel because when the world is dark, hunting for purpose, the last thing I want is to lose precious heat to a shortage I could have stopped. Every moment in the kitchen becomes a battle against shadow and sound. Thinking 2 steps ahead keeps you alive. I guard all of this with vigilance. Water and food aren't just commodities, they're my shield against the black abyss. I store them carefully, keeping supplies in a cool, dry place where time can't rob me of their usefulness. I rotate vigilantly, pulling out anything the clock threatens to spoil, replacing it with new essentials, because in the game of survival, there's no room for negligence. Expired water becomes poison, stale food, no comfort. The darkness doesn't scare me anymore, not like it did before I learned these truths. But it should scare you. If you've done nothing to secure your water and food, you might as well welcome the blackout with open arms. When the time comes, you'll find yourself at the mercy of those of us who prepared. And mercy, as you'll discover, is in short supply. 4. Shelter and security. When the world plunges into darkness, the very fabric of comfort and safety unravels. Shelter becomes your fortress, and security is your lifeline. These aren't luxuries during a blackout, they are your survival. I remember the first time the power vanished and the unsettling silence took its place. I could feel the unease creeping in, knowing I was suddenly vulnerable. The walls of my home no longer felt impenetrable. That's when I learned that creating a true shelter requires more than just 4 walls and a roof. It demands intent and preparation, or else you leave yourself exposed to the terrors that thrive in the void of light. I've learned to transform the mundane into my haven. Every corner of my home is part of a plan, a bastion against chaos. Rooms are divided strategically, with blankets tacked over windows to keep the warmth in and prying eyes out. Don't be deceived. Light is a beacon for those who might intend harm. If you must have a flashlight or candle, keep it low and always shield the glow. Darkness can conceal you, but stray beams will betray your position to anyone lurking outside. Sometimes, home isn't an option. The nightmare becomes real when you're forced to seek alternative shelter. Cars can save you, but they can also doom you. Never forget, running the engine in a confined space can poison the air you breathe. Park your vehicle in an open space, and still, you must be wary. The glass windows that enclose you can shatter with ease if someone or something comes for you. Before you settle, make sure to block sightlines with jackets, blankets, or anything else to obscure yourself from dangerous strangers or wandering creatures of the night. Natural shelters like caves and dense forests can be both a blessing and a curse. They grant protection from the elements, but they are riddled with unseen threats. Before taking refuge, I always listen for signs of other occupants. Rustling sounds, animal tracks, or musty odors mean this space might already belong to something else. Never assume an empty cave is safe, and always carry something to defend yourself if you're forced into the wild. If nothing ready-made is available, desperation can push you to build your own sanctuary. Expect no luxuries when constructing makeshift shelters in such dire circumstances. Tarps and trash bags are your friends. They can shield you from rain, wind, and the creeping chill of the night. Secure them tightly, double layer for extra protection, and anchor everything against violent gusts. These flimsy constructs may just keep you alive another night, but they'll test your skills and patience. Shelter alone won't keep the monsters at bay, not in this darkness. Security becomes your obsession. If you don't create noise traps around your perimeter, you're asking for calamity. Picture crude yet effective guardians, jars tipped to fall, strings secured to cans. The moment anything triggers them, you'll know, and maybe you'll buy yourself the moments you need to react. A mistake with fire, though, can turn your hideout into an oven. Any cooking or heating must be closely monitored. One slip and you've traded safety for ashes. This is no time for fear to paralyze you. Darkness is not your friend here. It whispers to threats and shields what you cannot see. Every movement, every decision must be made with survival etched into your bones. If you falter in preparing your shelter or fail to secure it adequately, the blackout will become more than an inconvenience. It will be the stuff of your worst nightmare. 5. Communication and community resilience. When the lights go out and silence blankets everything, the world feels eerily fragile. The absence of screens, notifications, and the hum of electricity leaves you exposed. Without preparation, it's easy to descend into chaos, a disjointed group of individuals lost in a dark void. Communication becomes your lifeline, pulling people together instead of letting fear rip them apart. But make no mistake, without a plan, isolation will win. And in a blackout, isolation kills. Think of the first thing that happens in a widespread blackout: panic. Phones will fail as the networks overload or shut down entirely. Emergency services will take longer to reach you, if they get there at all. Information will vanish into the shadows, leaving you blind to what's happening in the world around you. That's why you need to plan your communication now, before the darkness creeps in. Start with the basics. Equip yourself with tools that don't rely on power. Battery-powered or hand-cranked radios are non-negotiable if you want updates about weather, emergencies, or recovery efforts. These devices become the heart of your survival, pumping critical information to you when the grid is silent. And if you're brave enough to prepare for worst-case scenarios, consider ham radios. Yes, they require a little skill, but when no one else is reachable, long-distance communication could be the thread that ties fractured communities together. But devices alone won't save you. You must build resilience within your community, or you'll face the darkness alone. Imagine staring out your window at the pitch-black streets, knowing help isn't coming. Without community, desperation spreads, gnawing away at trust until paranoia takes hold. You must turn to your neighbors now, while the lights are still on, and forge bonds that will carry everyone through the disaster. Work together to pool resources and talents. Perhaps the person down the street has first aid skills, while someone else can grow food or repair tools. Establish a network and create plans for power-free communication. Designate meeting points in case homes become unsafe. Develop simple signal systems, like leaving flags, chalk marks, or lanterns in agreed-upon patterns that allow you to communicate silently when danger prowls closer. These small actions may be the only thing standing between unity and collapse. And then there's the human spirit. Loneliness is one of the blackout's most potent weapons. It tears at your resolve, convincing you that hope is lost. Fight it. Gather together face to face, be it around a fire, at a makeshift community meeting, or even just by candlelight in a living room. Conversations can do what no device can: restore morale and remind everyone that they are not alone in the void. These shared moments will fuel your fight to survive another day. The truth is frightening. A blackout is like a predator stalking your every weakness. Without communication and a community to lean on, you will succumb to fear, exhaustion, and chaos. The time to act is now, while you still have the advantage of light. Prepare, connect, and strengthen your bonds, because when the darkness falls, only the resilient survive. 6 key takeaways and recap. The night is darker than we've imagined. When the power goes out, so do the comforts we've clung to. I've come to realize that survival in a blackout requires not just preparation, but vigilance and adaptability in a world turned unrecognizable. If you remember anything, it must be these 6 takeaways. Your survival might depend on it. 1. Water and food are more precious than gold. When the taps run dry and the grocery store shelves are stripped bare, only those who've prepared will stand a chance. Stockpile clean water as though your life depends on it, because it does. Store at least a gallon of water per person per day. Food? Non-perishables are your salvation. Canned goods, dried grains, and protein bars. These are the currency of survival. Rotate your stock. Plan long-term, and guard these supplies as fiercely as your life. 2. Shelter isn't just 4 walls. When the storm rages, or whatever disaster grips the land, your home must be your fortress. Board up windows, secure your doors, and have materials ready to create makeshift shelters if things go south. Fire could be the shadow lurking in the dark. Eliminate risks, double-check your extinguishers, and always stay one step ahead. Trust me, the fragility of safety in the dark is terrifying. 3. Isolation spells. Doom. The silence is unnerving. No hum of appliances, no light to illuminate the faces of others. It's enough to drive one mad. That's why communication isn't a luxury, it's survival. Keep radios, phone chargers, and ways to contact loved ones at all costs. But most importantly, strengthen your community. When everything collapses, a crew you can rely on is the only remedy. Share resources, share watch shifts. Alone, the night feels endless, but together, there's a chance. 4. The unexpected will test you. Certainty is an illusion in the dark. Your plans will crumble when the circumstances twist into new nightmares. Flexibility is your lifeline. Be ready to adapt at all costs. A rigid plan is a death sentence. Learn new skills, reallocate resources, and always have contingencies. The unprepared are prey in this shadowy world. The adaptable survive. 5. The mental game is everything. The suffocating darkness can do more harm than the lack of food or heat. Fear grows in shadows, and without a sound mind, everything else collapses. Prepare not just your supplies, but your resolve. Have ways to calm the storm in your mind, books, journals, or even simple routines to keep chaos at bay. Keep your wits. Losing them can prove deadlier than the blackout itself. 6. Preparation is not paranoia. There's always a thin line between fear and foresight. Remember this, and never doubt your preparation. Stockpiling resources, training yourself, and equipping your home for a worst-case scenario isn't paranoia. It's survival. Don't wait until the powerless void swallows your town to take action. Start yesterday. The final warning. When the lights go out, the world becomes primal. All the conveniences we laughed off as essential fade into memory, as survival lays bare what really matters. Those who heed these warnings will endure. Those who scoff at them, best of luck. You'll need it. Prepare. The storm doesn't announce itself. It just takes everything you thought you'd have forever. Stay vigilant. Stay alive.